My podcast this evening is with Jenson Hillenbrand. Is that the
Correct?
Okay, and he is a transgender male that grew up as a female, and I know nothing about this, so we're going to get right into it. When you were, we went to school together, and I vaguely knew you. I remember you being at the school. But our class was 900 and some odd people or whatever it was. So I was spread pretty thin in school. When you were little, how did, let's start from the beginning. And how did we get here?
The beginning probably, honestly, would be preschool. I can remember, I have a pretty good photographic memory. And as far back as I can remember, always feeling like a guy, thinking, being tomboyish or being one of the guys, and I mean, one of the memories that I have that decades later with gender therapists stuck out to me was that if you are imagining yourself, you're fishing.
Okay.
You would picture you.
Yep. I
would picture this third person that was a boy.
Wow, okay.
It wasn't me, it wasn't my face, it wasn't my body, it wasn't... So it was this other third person, and it was always a boy.
Okay.
And so that's one of the early memories that I have is always thinking of myself, not just...
Sure.
As being a tomboy, but literally picturing myself as a male.
Right.
In my head, before you even aware of gender and sex and whatever.
Any siblings?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
And my whole life I never did the whole dolls and
now was she girly girl?
Pretty par for the course.
Right.
I know she's going to listen to this. She was I always used to tease her. She was always very much like Blair from Facts of Life.
Sure.
Was
very refined.
But I love her, and she's been totally supportive. But she was always pretty feminine. Maybe it was because of the generation. I jumped right to Star Wars guys, always boy toys, never Barbie or any of that stuff. I remember hating having to wear dresses on holidays and hating.
Yeah, dude. When I first talked to you today, we chit chatted before the podcast. I think you mentioned about 7 or 8 people we went to school with, and every single one of them was a dude.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's who I felt comfortable with, and that's who I hung with, and I was always very fortunate. I always was accepted by the guys as a guy, and I think it was because I felt guy and spoke guy, and I fit in with them.
Right.
Liking girls, and like we were talking before the podcast, before you even knew what sex was or it even existed or anything.
Right.
Seeing a celebrity or seeing another, someone from the whatever gender turns you on, and
sure.
You're what do they call it, the latency period? Not latency period. No, that's for being gay, but being attracted to someone. I do very early memory. Here we go. Being on a boat.
Okay.
With family friends. Probably again preschool, toddler age, and the wife of the guy who owned the boat was like this knockout blonde bimbo, for lack of a better, I hate to use that term, but
trophy wife,
big blonde, hair, big boobs, bikini, knockout, and a storm. We were in Lake Michigan, and a storm came up, and we were really scared, and we were down below in the boat, and I remember vividly my mother saying, "Do you want to sit on my lap?"
Okay.
To comfort me, and I was looking across the boat at that wife, and I said, I want to sit on her lap. I didn't know why, but whatever that was, right. I liked it. I didn't even know what it was. But
sure.
I can remember that memory. And then, other girls in school, and again, before you even knew what gay was.
Sure. I would take my daughter was a gymnast and my sons are wrestlers, but we would go to a gymnastic meet, and my sons would be like, all right, shut your mouth, son. Like they knew that they were interested. They didn't care about gymnastics, but they knew they were interested in what was going on there somehow. Right. So I think I understand exactly what you're saying.
I was at Irish step dancing exhibition. And there was this little guy who was just bored out of his mind. And then the teenage, gorgeous, stunning Irish step dancer girls in their very tight outfits came on, and he went from this in his seat to...
Yeah,
and
right.
it was like... yeah,
See now.
Yeah, picked... Yeah.
I thought girls were yucky until just a couple years ago.
So, but I, and I was one of the guys. And loved it, every bit of it, and always, all my best friends were guys, all my best friends now are guys.
Right.
But the flip side of that is, you'd think it would be heaven to be in the locker room if you liked other girls. It was torture. I weaseled my way out of gym class in high school. I couldn't stand it.
Okay.
It was sheer torture. I was so uncomfortable.
Why? Because the naked thing, or
no? Well, I just felt like I shouldn't be in there. And I didn't want them to see. Another part, when I was a teenager, I've never smoked or drank or done drugs, but I started overeating when I was about 15.
Okay.
Which is around the time the puberty kicked in. And,
Sure.
And another thing that can happen with body dysphoria or people with gender identity problems is if you just hate yourself, you start to punish yourself. People will cut or do drugs or what. And I started to eat. And because I hated my body, and that's what I chose to punish,
Right. No,
and kind of turned myself into this blob, this genderless blob.
Okay.
I hated that I was growing breasts. I hated all of it.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do with it. All the girls, I love on Facebook with the curly hair, the 80s hair with all the makeup and. I had the ponytails from 5th grade until I transitioned, 30 years of a ponytail. I had no interest in...
Yeah. Right.
Because I didn't know what to do with it. It was,
Sure.
if you woke up, what do you do if you have no interest in using the tools?
No, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've always been a guy, rough tumble, like just a guy all the time. Like just always had, and I mean, obviously I was born that way. So I couldn't even, I mean, not to be funny, but you obviously, growing up, I wish I had, girl parts just to look at them, but, no, otherwise, right. I couldn't even imagine being someone that felt like they were born in the wrong gender.
I couldn't even enjoy, because people have asked me that, did you enjoy being like, ooh, you're the spy? You could see all the naked.
Sure,
I'm like,
sure.
no. And I said, and if anything, it was like, it was awful. It was my friends. It's like it's like your sisters. I'm like, it seemed just really disrespectful too. Because it felt like I just shouldn't be in there. So it was if a guy was in there spying on the girls. I don't know.
So what you're saying is you didn't do all this just to get into the other bathroom.
No. But even before I transitioned, and I mean, I was 44 double D. I would be in bathrooms. I mean, a year before I transitioned, I was in the bathroom at Fry's, and a woman literally, there's a man in the bathroom. There's a man in the bathroom. I had a Carhartt coat on and a hat, and I could see.
Now, so you said a year before you transitioned. So were you taking hormones at the time, or nothing? It was just
from dressing, and my coat was real,
Got it. Yeah, just how you felt like looking, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I was mistaken for male. I remember being mistaken for male in the bank once with my mom, and she was just mortified. And they said, "Oh, and this is your son," and she went, "Daughter." And throughout the years, there were all different. There were plenty of signs. When I was a teenager, and accepted that I was attracted to other girls.
Right.
I'm like, okay, fine, well, I'm gay. Okay, fine. Go with that. I came out to friends. I came out to family, whatever. Officially came out to my parents, and that seemed like that was fine.
And how were they handling that?
They said they knew.
Okay.
It was fairly anticlimactic. I built myself up. I was terrified. I remember my dad was watching golf, and my mom was like, turn the TV off. He didn't even want to turn the TV off. To be distracted from the game, because he already knew what I was going to say. It was so anticlimactic. It was very disappointing.
I got it. Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I'm gay, and they're like, yes, well, we thought so, and just as long as you're happy. And then it was like, Christ, I tortured myself and felt, hiding away. That was we were talking about in high school.
Yeah.
You couldn't go to the school counselor and talk to them. They call your
different
folks
time,
and your
right.
ass would end up in the hospital.
No, but nowadays I think it's a lot different. I mean, my son, I told him I was doing this podcast, and he said that he had what was it? It was a female in his German class, and they were like friendly talking and stuff like that. And this female said to him, he goes, "Next year when I come back, I'm going to be a guy." And he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Now," he sits next to me in German class, and it's a dude.
Yeah. I spoke at my niece's high school, and the teacher said, come and talk to LGBT club. And I'm thinking 5 or 6 kids in a classroom that are probably going to sneak in so no one sees them. And there were over 120 kids in the cafeteria.
Right.
And I mean, it's like, how do you explain life before an iPhone or something? I just told them, I'm like, it's blowing my mind. You guys are here. You're out. And I'm like, do you get bullied? Do you get beaten up? And they're like, no, nobody cares. What is your business?
Right. No, it's
there were trans kids, and they're like,
right.
People, and I've asked my niece and my nephew, and they're like, people really, not like they don't care, but they're like, whatever, like, you do your thing, we'll do our thing.
Sure.
And just let people, I mean, thank God, a generation or two now, race, religion, a lot of stuff, they're like,
completely different.
Like, whatever.
Oh, there's still assholes here and there.
Oh, yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah, no, that'll never totally go away, as we know,
right.
living in this country now. But
sure.
But for the most part, the progress is just happening, whether you like it or certain people like it or not.
No, and there's people that are our age that can't stand it. That I mean, the whole bathroom thing to me was like just the biggest nonsense in the world. First off, no one is trying to get into the other, like, and if I think that they're not. In their head, they're not visualizing actually what this looks like. And you're saying that a male that has transitioned to a female and is totally RuPaul, like total female looking, and you're saying that you want that to go to the men's room. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I think we're still in America, and probably always will be. We still have the Puritan
beginnings. Yep, right.
Clinging to us.
Yep.
There's boobs and soap commercials in Europe or whatever. Like, we're the America where there's the porn and whatever, and then the Puritan always.
Yep. Right.
The ones in the chat. Everybody, kill all the fags or whatever, and those are all the guys that are on the down low,
right?
On Grindr
and
hooking up and stuff, and they're married and they're hooking up with their neighbor,
right?
And they're there's the real what's said in public and what's done in private, and it probably always will be. But the Puritan thing is still, and I don't know. Everybody just locks up and freaks out, and I think the automatic assumption that if you still have a penis and testicles, that you're a man, and everybody knows that men can't control themselves, and all men want is sex, and they're gonna get it, however they get.
Sure.
This absolute one. That stereotype.
Yeah.
I live with my ex, who's a very hardcore feminist, and I respect that. And she marched and did a lot, for LGBT rights and women's rights. She still does. She's fighting the fight,
right.
Every day. She's very politically active. She's reading the news and the newspapers and everything. And, sadly, 30 years later or whatever, from when she started, you think we would have made a lot of progress, and then every day, you see. So I get it.
It ebbs and flows back and forth.
But at some point, not every man wants to have penetrative sex with every female that they run into text on context on a daily basis.
If we go back to
so your daughter is safe in the bathroom with the trans female,
yes, right,
whether they've had bottom surgery or not,
right, okay.
And I don't know. I mean, there was a thing in the, where a kid was using a stall in the school and they broke it open with a crowbar.
Yeah, right. Just because someone's transition doesn't mean they are into children.
Not because they're urinating, but because that school person was so uncomfortable with that. That's their problem.
Yeah.
Because whatever's the idea, I think in America, whatever's in your pants, sex. If whatever's going on in your pants has to do with sex.
Okay.
And how do we cut that connection?
Yeah,
because there's other things to do with those parts, or you could have those parts and do nothing with them, or have some parts and not, but I just
Some
I
people's
know the
libido,
bathroom
right? Some
thing.
people's libido is totally different than other people's as far as that goes. And then,
But it's
you
just,
know,
we didn't used to have gender bathrooms until what, the turn of the century. I mean, it's a
Is that right?
relatively new.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay,
I mean, it's like a 20th century
right.
invention generally.
Well, I know there's a
family
lot of
bathrooms
family
and
bathrooms and stuff
when
like
I went
that.
to Gender Odyssey, it was at the convention center in Seattle, and all the restrooms were gender neutral for the entire weekend. And guess what? Nobody raped anybody.
Right.
Nobody had sex with anybody's children. It worked out just fine.
Right, because I mean, one thing is a pedophile, and then the other is just either a gay person or a straight person,
but
or
that's the other great American stereotype, is that all homosexuals are pedophiles.
Right.
The street I live on, when we first moved there, the neighbors at the end that have a young daughter, and they just gotten her a puppy. No, we had just gotten our puppy. And so she wanted to pet our dog, and the grandmother told her, stay away from them, because they are using the puppy to lure you into the house so they can have sex, so they can molest you. Because
well,
they're gay.
I was actually told by a woman who was living as a gay person and then now is straight that all gay people have been molested. And I'm like, that is just not true. Like, that's just not. And she's like, oh yeah, no, I lived as it. And I'm like, all right, this is the lunch has got to end, because that's the worst thing I've ever heard anyone say. You're assuming, like, how could you paint with that broad of a brush? But so okay, back to like so you came out to your parents that you were homosexual.
Yeah.
And
they were like, apparently, whew, all right, that's the end of that.
yeah.
Because, the years rolled by, and I just never, it just didn't sit right. It was never complete. It was never,
Okay.
I knew there was something else
Right.
going on. And I'd wrestled with gender identity my entire life. And so then I started talking to a counselor about it, and then I went to a gender identity special counselor for it. And
Now,
it's
how
like,
is that? How is that defined? Like, I mean, I wouldn't know anything about it.
There are like definitions and parameters, and I mean, it used to
But
be.
I mean, finding that therapist, is that just readily available? And
was
does
at that-
insurance cover that sort of thing?
No, I pay it out of pocket. I mean, it was my counselor said go find one, and I
Okay.
went to Howard Brown Center in Chicago, which is the LGBT health center,
Okay.
and they had a list of resources. They're a great place to get resources.
Yeah, if you have any of that
And-
shoot
Oh,
me
yeah.
shoot me a text with it in there, and when I do the video for YouTube, I'll throw anything that's like that. So, because I mean, if there's someone out there that when it's on YouTube and it's searchable with that stuff, then
Right.
maybe someone finds it and then it's helpful.
Yeah.
So
it's, I mean, there's definitions. It's a gender identity or gender dysphoria is a defined, it's not a disease.
No,
It's
right.
a psychological, but the same way if, the
Condition.
psychologist looks up in the book and here's, whatever, arachnophobia. There's like a list of like the criteria.
right, conditions that you right.
But not everybody who's transgender has gender dysphoria and vice versa.
Okay.
Like I was going to say, I've seen studies where they do brain scans and there's such something as a male brain and a female brain.
Okay.
But I'm sure that not every transgender person has a physically male or female brain, because there's
Right.
an emotional part, and some people who are transgender are intersex or form of hermaphrodism.
Okay.
But the statistical rate is exactly the same as it is for people who are not transgender. So people try and go, oh, well, it's because you were born half and half, so you're just correcting.
Right. So this is,
Or-
I'm sure, very, very
It gets
confusing.
confusing.
Yes.
It's
Even for
that's
you,
as-
I'm sure
right.
it gets confusing after a
Because
while.
that's as arbitrary as right or left-handed or whatever, but people, I don't know if it's to make their argument better or make somebody else's weaker, but people will throw in stuff like that. And I don't think there's any one answer.
So when you're in that community, you're somewhere at a conference, at something where there's a whole mess of people that are in your situation, but they're all their unique situation. Do you have like a way of like kind of getting across that I'm trans to male
that's-
and I'm into women? Like how,
Yeah, I mean,
do you just wear a name tag and it says it on it? How do you
I
work that?
wish. I mean, like everybody else, I'm probably a symbol of getting older. The same way I don't know any of the text shorthands,
Right, okay.
talk to you later
Yep,
or whatever.
Yep.
There's shorthand lettering for all,
Right.
all, gender neutral, binary, non-binary, cisgender, cis
Right.
male. So there's a whole, and like we were saying, the list of gender markers is getting longer and longer. I can remember 10 years ago, stories in the news where they were saying, like, what's the future going to be like? Are we going to lose our pinky fingers? Like human evolution.
Yeah, right, okay.
And one of the things that was always said over and over was that gender is going to blur. And gender is going to be more, not as clearly defined as male and female.
Right.
And that was really before transition, or when transitioning kind of came, I don't want to say trendy. But I
like that it's out in the open now. I really do. I don't. Like I'm not a big fan of. I had mixed feelings all the time growing up. There were bullies, and then I had mixed feelings over like the whole, initiative to stop bullying at all costs. And I'm like, wait a minute. Some of that stuff helped me grow as a person because I had bullies and I had to overcome that situation, but. Like I spent a lot of time talking with my 17-year-old sons, and the fighting doesn't happen, the bullying doesn't happen the same way. I mean, we had a girl with Down syndrome at our grammar school, and we weren't probably awful to her, but we were awful about her. You know what I mean? Yeah. We called her mental and all this other stuff that you would never do now, and now. The kids that are in high school, they make that kid the prom queen,
right?
And it's great. Yeah. That's terrific. What a better way to be. Like I said, I'm sure there's always going to be assholes, but as far as growing up being a guy, when we were growing up, I got in my first fight 4th grade, and then fought constantly every year. Where my sons are juniors in high school and never been in a fight in their life. I mean, they have. Almost 900 wrestling matches apiece under their belt, so that's a little scuffle, but no fights.
Right.
They've never had a bully. They've had to overcome plenty of things that would substitute for that, but I don't know if I'm the same. I'm glad that it's the way it is now. I really would prefer this.
It's better, but some of the character building,
things are missing.
Making it too easy, or everybody wins, nobody loses, and there's a lot of, and then they don't have the tools when they're an adult to deal with disappointment or deal with conflict but I can't remember who it was. It was I think one of my niece's friends, I don't know. It was a teenager and they were wearing just a pink button down shirt, and it occurred to me, I'm like, in my junior high or high school, if you'd worn a pink shirt, fag, they would beat the shit out of you and called you a fag all mercilessly all the time. I saw people get called that because for wearing pink or whatever. Now it's like, but even tiny things like that, because I would when I was asking the kids at the high school, I'm like, the stuff like that happens, and they're like, well, yeah, there's still bullying, but a lot of the stuff that has to do with identity, or the race or whatever, it's just
no
personal attacks are still
oh, I'm sure. I can't even, I think in nature we are.
It'll never go away.
Right. Our nature is to peck the.
Well, I told you, my bully.
Yeah.
Right. Who had issues.
Yes. Right.
And it was blatantly obvious what the situation was. And I finally stopped. And I stood up to him and scared the shit out of him, and he left me alone after that. But I'd be lying if I said that decades later, as I'm sitting here right now, that still didn't get to me. I shouldn't. I shouldn't. But
see, for me, like I'm not offended by much, and I'm not. I was never too. I grew up with, pretty physical parents. Both of them were pretty physical, and I don't think I ever lived a life where I was too worried about getting beat up or any of the other stuff like that. Now I had a guy at a reunion that told me that I frightened him and stuff like that. I don't remember doing it. And I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. And he goes, well, you were just like, really, really out. I'm like, and I was. I mean, the mohawk and everything else. And so, like, I was a spectacle as far as that went. But I don't remember
you weren't mean. You were never mean. There were guys that were just plain mean.
Oh, no. Plenty of guys that were really mean.
You were maybe rowdy, but I wouldn't say
totally
mean.
Rowdy. And probably if you were the timid type, you didn't want to get too close because something stupid was going to happen. Like they call me Buster because I bust shit up when I get drunk. So it wasn't good. But so with your situation and how did you come to like a situation where you were like, because that's a huge
it just
step.
kind of came to a head. It just kind of.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask like what.
Oh yeah,
I know you say you had a mastectomy, right? Like
right. Well, no, it's different. So I
Okay.
it kind of after it's got to like my mid 30s, and I'm like, God, what am I doing with my life? And just drifting with a lot of different stuff, jobs, and just not feeling fulfilled. I wouldn't call it midlife crisis because I think I was too young, but it's going to sound really corny. But when Chaz Bono transitioned, was when I was really
Cher's
like
son,
year or two before that was when I couldn't get it out of my thinking about being trans. I just couldn't get it out of my head, and just going, I'm getting old. Just coast to the bottom. Just just be happy with who you are, and
right.
It's like, oh, I'd like to see Hawaii or something. You don't have the money. You don't.
Yeah, right.
It'd be nice if I could, but
can't.
I won't. If I won't,
Sure.
I'm not going to jump off a cliff if I can't do it. And when Chaz Bono transitioned, I was totally overwhelmed, and I had watched the documentary in private so that my ex-partner that I lived with couldn't hear it because I knew she would freak out.
Did it make him much, much happier to...
Yeah.
Right.
And then I went and bought the book, and I was reading the book in secret, and just stewing it was just coming to a head, and I was just like, I think I have to do this. I think I have to do this. And my parents... my parents were divorced at that time, and I went to both of them separately and just said, I think I'm transgender and I think I need to transition. And my dad went, well, kind of, talking about your childhood. I had a rocky childhood. I had a dad that was mentally unstable, and my mom had mental health issues. I'm bipolar. My dad had to have been bipolar in hindsight.
Right.
My mom was manic depressive.
Right. Some of the stuff's
it
not
runs in the
diagnosed
family.
then.
It runs on both sides. I'm like, could have been inherited diabetes or cancer or whatever, and so I've dealt with that.
Right.
My whole life, which is another whole conversation. But from like first grade or something on, I had troubles at school chronically and troubles with other kids or whatever, and my parents made us go to counseling, and then I didn't want to. Then we fought at home because I didn't want to go to counseling, so we have to go to counseling because we fought at home.
Right.
And the parents going up and down with their mood swings, and there was physical violence and abuse and no sexual abuse, thank God. And
right.
But it was very traumatic for me and my sister. But my mom and I were the targets of the 99% of the abuse from my dad, and that's a whole anyway.
So no.
But
a very
throughout the times
unsatisfactory home life for
they
sure.
would take me to the counselor, then I was the kid that got pulled out of class to, you're going to go in the little room and do tests, and it was psychological testing.
Okay.
So then the school system gets involved, and then the social workers get involved, and and the counselors at the counseling agency are running tests, and it was when I was 18, I went and got a copy of the file, this big thick file with all, and I read back to first grade, and I'm like, first of all, I was failing everything. Why didn't somebody tell me how smart I was? My IQ was in there, all this stuff.
Right.
I thought I was
you
stupid.
Thought you were dumb.
I was
Sure.
failing everything. And
makes sense.
All these issues with, I was very bad. I used to get in trouble in class a lot, and I was a smart ass, and I'd goof around a lot. And,
right.
Which probably all people from Frankfurt will remember. I had a good time. But wasn't doing well in school. But one of the things that went all the way back to like kindergarten or first grade was gender identity, gender confusion, wearing clothes, talking, affectations, So apparently my parents had been told all the way back from day one that I had gender identity issues, and they didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't want to deal with it.
Who would in the 80s?
And we had everything else. We had all kinds of other stuff going. All the other chaos that was going on at home.
Right.
And so when I came to them separately and said, I think I'm transgender and I want to transition, both of them said, well, yeah, we'd been told that for quite a long time. And I'm like, why didn't you somebody would have told me?
Sure.
And,
I think that's a double-edged sword, because if you start talking to someone who's 13, 14 years old about
Right.
that, you might implant
Right.
that in them.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to that. And they said, and they felt they felt horrible. My poor mother just burst into tears. I'm so sorry, and I ruined your life. And I'm like, you did your best. You did your best with the information you had. You did the best with the tools that you had. I'm not blaming you.
I'm
not
glad they
faulting
were
you.
supportive.
She apparently had been feeling guilty, which was one of her specialties, for decades about the whole thing. And I'm like, it's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. It was a different time,
Right.
People didn't, talk about stuff like that or whatever. You weren't comfortable. And they both said, after I came out as gay, again, they were like, woo, they thought that was it.
Right.
Okay, then that's...
So
okay, then we won't even have to go to the gender thing.
Right, you lived as a gay woman.
So I lived as a lesbian for
in your mid-30s.
Yeah.
And so when you decided to transition, were you dating someone? Was that a thing where you had to be like...
I lived with my ex.
The one now?
So
okay.
Who was not keen on the idea at all, understandably. Because, as I said, she's very,
I mean, is she's
I'm
a
sure
lesbian?
She's going to listen to this, and I don't want her to be offended, but it's not like she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Men aren't her favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm going to become the thing she hates the most. Not hates the most. I don't want her again.
Yeah.
But, someone who's,
I think that there's plenty of reason.
She said, you can do that if you want, but go
Right.
live someplace else. And I said, well, then I'm going to have to go live someplace else because I have to do this. And we just kind of left it at that. And so I started, then my father passed away. And then within a year, my mother became ill, and she had brain cancer, and she passed away.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden, life was very different. And my mother had left me a very small savings that she had and said, do what you need to do to be happy.
Yeah.
So I used that money to have what they call top surgery. It's different than a mastectomy.
Okay.
It's fortunately one of the top surgeons in before I get ahead of that, though, before my dad died, I guess I said I'm going to do it, and he said, yeah, be happy, And I asked him, if you'd had a boy, what would you have named him? Thinking I might go with that, and he said Steve. I said, I'm sorry, Dad.
I find that funny because
I'm not going to name myself Steve.
I'm telling you, growing up, I always wanted to be called Steve. I thought Steve was the coolest name.
It is a cool name.
Yes. Steve Austin.
Steve McQueen.
Steve, right,
yeah.
Steve,
For the right
man.
guy, it's Steve, but I'm not a Steve.
Yeah.
But also, one thing, with all the bad memories of childhood, I've certainly, of course, have good, loving memories of childhood with my dad. And ironically, or probably not to me, the times we most got along is when I was like his son. We lived in Frankfurt. We lived in a big old house from the Revolutionary War with the barn and the end of Nebraska, opposite of being a lumber.
Right.
I love that house. And growing up on that property, and we're working with tools, and we're going to do the yard together, and we're going to go fishing, and we're going to go hunting, and we're going to I'm going to teach you how to use the tractor. I probably was 6 or 7. I was riding the John Deere tractor. The times, guy movies that we liked, or there were good memories that I can pick out are when we were doing like father and son type things. But then he explained to me later, and he was aware of that as well, but it made him uncomfortable because he knew there was this funky gender weirdness in there. So he enjoyed it, but he also, it also.
I tried with my daughter, and she's, I wouldn't say she's an athlete and stuff like that, but it was definitely, I wanted her to do everything that guys did, just because I have no faith in guys. I don't. I mean, guys are a lot of them are idiots. A lot of them. I had a girl I was dating say to me years ago that she wanted to set her cousin up. I know all these people. I've got tons and tons of friends. Do you have anybody you would set up? And I was like, off the cuff, I was like, no, not one guy did I want to vouch for that I knew was single. There's a couple guys now that I thought back on, and I'm like, well, yeah, I probably would have, but I don't know if I knew that they were single or not. But for me, like knowing maybe 50, 60 men and being like, nope, not one of them.
There's not one of them.
I would not vouch
I would
for
put
them.
my daughter. I wouldn't want my
Right,
alone
right,
with
right.
yeah.
No, so so yeah, guys are, I don't know, guys are screwballs.
Well, and being on the guy, that's the other thing, is being on the guy side pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
Being privy to guyness,
Sure.
Has prepared me, so now that I'm there full time, I'm not like having to talk different or walk away, or whatever.
Now, has this hurt your relationship then? Is this what ended it with?
No, we weren't, we weren't anything, we weren't a couple, but still living together, basically just companions, I would say.
Okay.
We still care about each other, and we still, we have a home together, and I've got my life challenges. I can't afford to move out, and she's got a small amount of family, but not really, and my family has been wonderfully accepting. They adore her. She's a wonderful person. I mean, I wouldn't have spent 20 years of my life with her if she wasn't.
Oh, wow, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, we've been together for like 22
That is a long time.
years.
Yeah, wow.
Not we've been a couple for over a decade, but you can't spend that much time with anybody and not
Sure.
have something together, and things that we still share, and she's older than I am, and I don't know, you get comfortable, and I wouldn't, I don't know.
So now, okay, but in that situation, then it makes it probably hard for you to date because.
Well, I haven't.
Right.
I don't.
Right. Wow, that is.
So my mother passed away, and I had my top surgery. One of the top 3 surgeons in the country was in Lake Forest.
Now, how's it different than? Okay, I'm
I'm
just saying probably the wrong word.
A mastectomy is.
Just remove the mammary.
Well, yeah, because they do leave. I don't know if I should speak on a mastectomy because I don't know all the details.
Okay.
I mean, I've known people who've had complete mastectomies, and all the tissue is removed, and there's a scar.
Yeah.
And there's no nipple.
Okay.
My procedure, there's different forms of chest masculinization, which is now what they call it.
Okay.
Or top surgery is the shorthand. So the one I had was called an inverted anchor. So what they did was they made an incision across and then an incision up. Here's where it gets really fun. They completely cut the nipples off and left them on little stalks of nerve.
Okay.
And those go off on a little tray on the side.
Wow.
Then they take out almost all the breast material. Some because you have to have pecs. You have to have some
the
kind
muscle,
of chest
right?
lift.
Sure.
And then sewed it together. So like an inverted anchor. So
okay. Yeah, I got it.
That's what you can think of. So
yep.
Up and then out to the side.
Yeah.
And then they trim, because men's nipples are smaller than women's.
Okay.
So they trim them down.
All
so
right.
they're smaller
Yep.
and even size. And also men's nipples are out to the side. They're not.
So it's a lot of plastic surgery going on.
And so then they reattach the nerve stalks.
Okay.
And sew the nipples back on. And
I saw a post that you
put
put
in
on.
drains.
Okay, I saw a post that you put on social media that said you were at the pool and you were getting some funny looks and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I have faint scars, but there are scars.
Okay.
Heavier guys have what they call dog ears, so I have kind of little points of skin that are in my armpits that are something that you can have taken off later. They like you to wait at least a year before you have anything revised, and then my surgeon moved to Colorado.
Oh.
So, and just money-wise. So I've just been living with what I have, and a lot of aftercare. They put drains in. The drains, I thought the drains were just in the end, but they went all the way.
Oh, wow.
Because he went to pull them out, and like...
Wow.
And there was a lot of aftercare, and like, again, my ex... Well, so I started, when I said, I'm going to do this, like, I'm not just saying it, I'm really going to do it. And, okay, I'm going to meet the surgeon. I'm going to meet the surgeon on the 9th. Like, I was making it more specific. Okay, right. I met with the surgeon. I'm doing a follow-up with the surgeon. She was like, okay. Get ready to move. Okay. And then, like, I'd be in the other room, and I'd hear her, and she's watching a 2020 episode, and it's got Jazz, the trans kid, on it. I'm like, she's doing a little research. She's
Good.
She's getting a little, thinking about it, and the more I did.
Now, when you're
I
doing
think it
all
came
these
out of
surgeries,
respect. I think the more I did, especially when I did, I'm like, okay, I've scheduled the top surgery.
yeah,
All right, you can do that, but you recover at your sister's house. I don't want to see that at the house. I'm not comfortable with it. And I said, okay, I respect that. Absolutely respect that. Try and respect boundaries. And
sure.
okay. And then I went and had the surgery. And I was at my sister's house for a day, recovering. And she came and got me and said, come home. I'm going to take care of you at home.
I've seen stories of men that were married with children that transitioned to a female, and somehow the marriage survives.
Yeah, it depends. That's where, next we should probably just jump into sex. Because then that gets into, any relationship. It just seemed to me that she was able to, I think after, there's you talk the talk, and then you walk the walk, and then see what, and also, she said, I was a different person. I like to say I'm not a different person. People are like, is life different now as a man? And I'm like, but I always was a man. There is no
Right.
before and after.
No.
It's just like some
Mentally,
official
but
stamp or
physically,
something.
right.
In my head, I'm still the same. Because I almost felt like, where's the big wow here? Where's the big, I'm supposed to feel so different, and I don't feel different at all. And then it's like,
Now,
because
let's start with feelings. The whole time that you're doing these surgeries, are you taking hormones and stuff like that?
well, I did the surgery first. I hadn't started taking. The first thing I did was cut my hair. I cut the ponytail off.
Wow, so
that I'd had since fifth
I
grade.
thought the hormones
And
would
I
come
felt
way
great.
before.
Usually it's supposed to. Usually it
Oh,
does.
okay.
But my ex had said, okay, you can have the surgery, but no hormones. Okay, fine. So I did the surgery, and I hadn't done hormones yet, but and it's a I can't answer for women who've had mastectomies who mourn the loss of their breasts, because I woke up so happy. I literally felt like I had tumors. I can't even put it into words. Looking in the mirror and not seeing what I couldn't even think of as part of my body, like
Right.
something. It's beyond.
It's very feminine.
It's
right.
beyond.
Yeah.
It just dressing and wearing a bra.
Yep.
And I never have to wear a bra again, and
Sure.
sleeping. And you can't imagine. And so just being so happy, and that's what my ex would be. The deeper I went into the process, and the happier I got, and we're screaming less, and we're fighting. I became a new person on so many levels.
Sure. You're like looking at yourself probably better than...
And she was, not only, I wouldn't say enjoying it or whatever, but respecting, starting to go, probably not to acceptance, but tolerance, because you can't, I think, argue with results. But it's not a magic bullet. One of my relatives is like, well, if you transition, you still have your bills, and you still don't have a job, and you still don't. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not going to magically solve all of my life's problems. I never thought that. The same thing is coming out. If you're gay or whatever, it doesn't make any of your problems go away. It just takes this insane weight that you're carrying on top of everything else off.
Right.
So that
But everybody's got those other problems.
Yeah, everybody's got
Right. And I would think that the bigger problem would be the gender issues over paying bills. And paying bills and stuff like that. Like everybody's got, most everybody wakes up in the morning and they've got, all right, what am I going to do to make some dough to get, to get everything paid for? So those are normal feelings that everyone's got. But to put on top of that stress that you're unhappy about being, right.
I don't know. It's just an epic level of unhappiness that I wouldn't wish on anybody, no matter what the circumstances.
Well, that's why I went to the hormones, because I know that's got to play on how you feel too. Like
right, because that part even I was afraid of. I was excited about, but also afraid of, because you can have mood swings, and so I did this. So did the hair, did the surgery, started all the wheels in motion for starting hormones. And okay, I'm going to start hormones, and okay, but I'm doing it. I'm really doing it. And at the time the counselor I was seeing, I said, it takes like a year before it's months before you start seeing any little effects, and really a year before you start to really noticeably be different.
Right.
And I said, so I think, I'll start it and she'll be okay. And then a year from now she'll wake up and there'll be a man in the house. I'll have a beard and whatever.
Yeah.
Since it happens gradually, maybe it'll go easier and she'll have an easier time accepting it. And other people, because I've been very, very blessed. I really don't have any friends or family that...
Yeah.
I have one cousin who was very uncomfortable when I came out as gay, when I came out as trans.
Even more. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. If it's
do?
one out of everybody I know, but they're just not comfortable with a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. And I actually just had another cousin in my family come out as non-binary transgender, and their partner is female to male trans and is about to have top surgery.
Okay.
So they were he. So I have a cousin who was he.
You have a cousin that was a he.
And now they're identifying as they, as non-binary.
Non-binary, right. So not, yeah.
Okay. And they have a partner who is transitioning from female to male.
Right. It's so confusing. I saw a interview on The Daily Show, and there was a guy, I'm pretty sure it was a guy, he had a really, really thick 5 o'clock shadow, the long hair, the red lipstick, red fingernails, wearing a dress, didn't shave the legs or armpits or chest, and I'm like, and I think his whole angle was that he was non-binary, and that it wasn't like he was trying to generally confuse people as far as what he was doing, a little bit of everything. And I was like, all right, hey man, whatever makes you happy. If that's what makes you happy, that's fine. I can't imagine making that choice. Like, I think some people think that they do that just for attention or to piss people off.
And I think that probably
some
there
do.
are some that it is.
That it's a con. They're actually just like trying to make some dough.
I think some is probably a con, and some is probably to create awareness or create,
Right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we can talk about the history of gender bending or whatever. I mean, there's been a lot of. Bowie. All the pioneers.
Yeah.
Well, that kind
some of
of
that
stuff,
I think was to be outrageous.
Some of it was showmanship,
yeah,
but some of it was also, they were bi or they were, this, that, whatever. But so then I started the hormones, and I didn't want to do injections.
Okay.
Because I was just a wimp and I didn't want to
So
do a needle. So
gel?
I started with a patch.
Okay.
Like a round patch, like you'd get like a nicotine patch or something. Yeah. And I'm like, oh great, and just stick it on. And then you have to put it in a different place every time. And then I had skin reactions. And I went into my doctor. I'm like, look, it's like I was attacked by the colossal squid. I had like these giant red circles all over my body. Right. I'm like, this is not going to fly.
No.
What else can I do? And the hormone that the doctor at Howard Brown she's like, well, you really just need to do you just need to get over it and do the needle. We'll show you how to do it. And and you can do intramuscular, which is a longer needle where you go and it shoots in fast, or
I hate needles, so I don't know anything about it.
Or a tiny or a smaller needle.
Yeah.
Subcutaneous, where you stick it in. It takes longer for it goes in slower.
Okay.
But it's a tiny. And they did it, and I'm like, that's it? And it's kind of like when I got my first, I have 2 tattoos, but when I got the first tattoo, I went, that's it? That's what I was so afraid of?
Right.
And I was like, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. I inject every other week, and like I said, it was a few...
Now, it's just testosterone?
It's just testosterone.
And how much testosterone do you inject?
I take a half milliliter every other week.
Oh,
everybody's dose is different. You get blood work. I have to go back every once in a while and get checked and see what my T levels are.
So what are your T levels? What do they keep you at?
I don't even know.
Oh no,
I should.
You. Yeah, right. I figured you did.
I've got it somewhere. No, I don't. But it's whatever. There's like a normal range.
Sure.
So I started, and so first I started. I'm like, when's the hair going to come? And da da da. And I started noticing my voice getting deeper. Started noticing a little wisp
Yeah, some hair, sure.
of beard. I'll never get the beard. I've tried growing the whole thing out, and I just it's genetics.
Yeah, right.
There's a.
Oh, I know dudes.
I'm going to do a shout out. I love to sing, and when I looked up online about your singing voice when you're trans and what to do about it, and they showed a music video from this band called Coyote Grace. Everybody look him up. This great trans singer Joe Stevens. And he's like a gorilla. You know the guys who have to like shave between their neck and their chest, just the
That's me, man. I grow all the way
like
straight through.
Like an ape.
Yep.
And he's he's female to male transgender.
Oh, okay. Right.
You'd never guess. And I would look at the pictures and I would be like, oh, all right, I'm going to get chest hair, whatever. I'm a Swede and German and pasty, beached whale. I have like a chest hair.
Right.
I never shaved my armpits. I don't know if it was the lesbian thing or whatever. I've never shaved I think I shaved my legs once freshman year or something until I weaseled my way out of gym class. I don't really have hairy legs. I don't know. I think it's just it's genetics.
The genetics, sure.
I'd like to have more of a beard. It's coming in a little bit thicker the more years I'm into it, but I thought I was going to be able to roll with going bald if I went bald.
Mm-hmm. Because the testosterone...
It doesn't automatically. It's your genetics, again. So if you were...
Okay.
The rule is hormones can give, but they can't take away. So if you're female to male, that's why, like Caitlyn Jenner had to have the... had the Adam's apple shaved, or you can... the female to male, the estrogen is going to grow breasts. I mean, it does shrink their genitals a little bit, but it doesn't make them shrink away to nothing. Do you know what I mean? It can give. So, for like it can't make them have a female voice because they're...
Right, okay.
You're going through puberty again. But if you've already gone...
There was a thing out there that said that Michael Jackson had his testicles burned off or something to keep it... I didn't know.
But there was something about the father making him take medication so that he would stay... Right. The voice would stay.
Well, I heard it was chemically castrated.
Chemical castration. Pills. That's pills.
Right.
Yeah. But, so it's like you're going through puberty again, but basically the way you wanted to at least
originally.
For me.
Sure, right.
But you can only do, so much. So if you're female to male, your clitoris grows 2 or 3 inches maybe at the max.
Okay.
Because, in the womb, there's the point where male or female are the same.
Right.
And then
it
either grows and becomes this or it grows and becomes that. It grows and becomes testes, it grows and becomes
Okay.
So the hormones affect that because
changing it.
Because the clitoris would have been your penis if that's the way you were born.
Yeah, right.
But there's only so much you get from the hormones.
Okay.
I personally wouldn't have bottom surgery. 1, I think I'm too old. 2, I've never seen... It's this weird, little buffet. Do you want testicles? You can get testicle implants. Do you want...
Not functional, though.
No.
Okay.
No, just for feel.
Okay.
They can do a surgery... it's called a meta-release, so that the clitoris that's grown, basically they just do a couple little slices so it sticks out a little bit more.
Okay.
So you can feel like you've got more length.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You can have a full phalloplasty where they take skin from your arm or your belly and fashion a penis out of it. I've never seen... You can Google it if you guys
hydraulics or something like that.
That's the thing.
Pump.
You can put the pump in it, like guys that have impotency issues. They can put a rod. Here's your flexor rod. You take it home when you're ready for action. You put it in. You take it.
Wow.
The same way any biomale with impotency issues, so they can apply all that technology.
Right.
Do you want to pee through it? Do you not want to pee through it? You want to hook up your urethra so you can pee up through it, but then it can dribble.
So it's a real pick your penis kind of thing.
It's kind of like a custom-made thing, but even the state-of-the-art surgery at this point, for what seems like a very simple thing. Yeah. Penis seems like a very simple. It's just a tube and it gets hard and go to town or whatever.
Right.
Making one that's lifelike and functional is darn near impossible. I know they did a transplant on a soldier that had lost his penis in a landmine explosion or something, and it was
Wow.
successful.
Wow.
But even then, it's going on over. And then, I don't know if it's psychological to me. I mean, then there's trans guys, they're with a girlfriend or boyfriend, whoever they're with. If they're having sex with that penis from a phalloplasty, you're having sex with their forearm skin.
Yeah.
You're performing oral sex on their forearm skin.
Right.
Or having, not that, but. And trans guys that I've talked to in like a support group and online and stuff, it's everybody seem to have like what their psychological line in the sand. I'm happy with this, or like I will not be a whole man. I will not be done until I've done this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Until I have that physical flesh in my pants between my legs or whatever, and then everybody's got that. They can't stop until they get. I mean, they're not fully formed.
Yeah.
Whatever they're.
Yeah, right. I understand.
Whoever they are.
Yeah, they got to go wherever they got to go.
They have to go wherever they have to go.
Right.
And I respect that. So it ends up this, but the technology, whatever, the technology's not there. But I respect that there's trans guys that are like, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, and are going through, again, and male to female, the surgery, the penile inversion is what they call it. So
yeah, now I saw that in a documentary where they just like turn everything inside out or something like that.
Way more complicated and painful, and you have to really to think about what you've got to. Your pain is your emotional pain, to go through that pain to get to feel better.
Right. And you can't even, because there's nothing you can put it up against. Like if you did bottom surgery, you would have no barometer to say, did it work out successfully? Because does it feel, because you don't know what it feels like in the first place to actually have it. So I mean,
right.
Like that's got to be a difficult, right.
And I don't have that need. I don't have that, I can't sleep at night because I have to know that or have to have that experience or whatever, but what guys do and whatever,
So
or even if they're not, or it doesn't even have to be and they're gonna ever do anything with it sexually. It's just to feel whole, whole as a man or whole as who they are.
Right.
A lot of guys where they call Packers, they call them Packers, and basically it's just a
prosthetic.
Okay. Silicone penis and testicles, and
right.
they sell all kinds of underwear that you can stick them in. And when I first transitioned, a guy from my trans group gave me one as a gift, like, here, like, welcome to the whatever. And I tried it on once, and I'm totally honest, it felt great. And I put pants on and sat down, and I was like, that felt really good.
Natural, the way that
very, very natural and very good. And I thought, well, I'm going to wear this every day. This feels great. But yeah, you got to clean it. You got to clean the underwear, and you got to clean the. And I hate to say it, but I was just so lazy, and I don't have anybody, as far as I know, staring at my crotch, looking to see if I've got a big bulge or not.
Right.
So I'm passing fine without it. Yeah, did it feel? It's like, oh, these slippers feel great. But it felt great. But
so you went from being in a lesbian relationship. So like, there's all kinds of dudes out there that totally think they know what lesbian sex is. I'm pretty sure none of you do, because porn's
not like in the movies.
Yes, right. Porn's probably not what a good representative of that, because porn's not a good representative of sex, heterosexual either. No. It's bad. I mean, I told my sons, I was 17, I'm like, hey, man, I know you guys watch whatever you watch, but please don't think that's what's appropriate.
No, nothing.
It's not.
Nothing online is what.
What
it is. Not even the real.
So how without getting and I don't care how graphic we get, because it doesn't, none of that bothers me, but I don't want to bother anyone that's listening, and I don't want to bother you about it. But I've dated women that liked me to touch their breasts and stuff like that, and I've dated women who didn't
Well, I think
care.
it's just personal.
Right. So, but you went from a relationship that was 2 women to now you're.
Yeah, but we weren't a couple by the time we
Oh.
were
So
in
you've-
separate bedroom. We had broken up as a couple.
So you've never tried
Years
to have any relationships with.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to, but I don't know. It's a very odd situation.
Oh, let me put it this way. I talk to people all the time that come out of a relationship and their first idea is, I got to get another relationship. And I always say, hey, why don't you learn another language? Why don't you make a better you out of the situation? Like, focus on you. When my sons, and we're pretty close, we talk about things that probably a lot of dads and sons don't talk about. But I tell them, listen, you got no business being married or thinking that those thoughts till you're 30. I go, dude, get the Corvette, go to Europe, do all the things that you want to do with yourself. And then I go, buy a house, make it your house, all that stuff. So what I'm saying is build the nest before you fill the nest.
Right.
So,
And I'm not saying I'm done, but I don't see myself leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, my ex is a lot older than I am, but I don't want anything
sure you
to happen
deeply
to
care
her.
about this person, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I love her. I mean, we still love each other. I don't know.
It sounds like it's complicated and very difficult, right?
Yeah, so, and I'm not, I'm sure everybody will be, surprised to hear that sex isn't everything. So.
Sex, yeah. Well, yeah, right. Everybody's wired differently.
And with, and like I said, I'm bipolar. I mean, I'm on meds and everything, and I don't think I'm probably capable of maintaining a stable relationship, even with medication and counseling and everything. I probably could date somebody or, whatever. And after so many bad situations and stuff I'm not like I'm just it's not my number one.
Sort yourself out beforehand. I hang out with a lot of couples, and there are definitely couples that the woman is not getting enough sex or the man's not getting enough sex. So like everybody's different, whether it's male, female or not. I'm wired in a way where that's a pretty important situation that it's got to be going on. And so I see a lot of guys that like women, like they like to look at women, but they don't necessarily like women. Like, they're not that fond of women in general. I like women. I have a lot of women friends, and I like to talk to them, and I like to, hear what's going on between their ears and stuff like that. I also like women to look at and sleep with and everything else. But there's probably women out there that don't particularly like men. They're heterosexual, but they're not that thrilled with dudes. And I guess I get that to a point. So you haven't gone into having sex, but that's, I'm sure, you said you go to counseling.
It wouldn't really be any different than
the lesbian sex was. Right, because you're still into women.
It's the same gear.
Right.
Slightly enhanced on my side, and I'm still only attracted to women.
Right.
Because that's the other, because your gender identity has nothing to do with your sexual preference, your sexual identity.
Right, where most people probably think it does.
It gets, and the more there's all these, like we said, the more the list of genderqueer, gender non-binary, the more gender identity markers are added to the list. Not that everybody's not welcome, but seems like there's a new one. I'm like, how is there a new variable to even come up with that's left? But they seem to always come up with a new one. So, whatever you're attracted to, whatever you're into, hey man, go for it. And I know trans guys that date trans guys, and male to female that are with female to male, or like you said, okay, then the husband is now the wife, but didn't, maybe they didn't have bottoms, or maybe they, whatever they're still sexually attracted to each other.
Right.
Maybe maybe the husband who's now the wife didn't have bottom surgery, so the gear's still there. And that's why. Maybe she just digs it.
I've
Maybe
done work
he
for
did have
gay
bottom surgery.
Right.
It's all, but that's everybody. That's the private business of whoever. And also, that's like what I was saying about behind closed doors. Where people, oh well, boys like girls and girls like boys, and they're straight and gay. That there's a lot more freaky fun going on in picket fence.
Yeah.
America than they like to admit to.
Right.
Whether they're just watching it on Pornhub or
and I mean we're talking about that now just because we're here on this podcast, but I have friends that are gay and I can hang out with them for the entire evening and never once do I think about what they do behind closed doors. Like that's not
right.
You're dealing with the person, you deal with the person and that's it.
I went for a short time to a transgender support, not like a support group, it was almost like a social club thing. We were meeting like once a month, and I stopped going because actually there was a guy there who was just kind of a jerk. He was just an asshole. He was just like a loudmouth asshole guy, and I'm like, why am I driving an hour to go, and we're supposed to be having pizza and hanging out and chit chatting, and
this guy's
just driving me nuts. But one of the while we were there and talking about sex, and people were airing interests and things, they were talking about straight men that are bi-curious that want to be with a guy but they don't really want to be with a guy, and so there's a whole new like porn industry and stuff where they're interested in trans guys so they can have vaginal sex instead of anal sex, but they look like a guy. So they get to have the guy experience, that bi-curious experience, but they don't want to...
Wow. Well, yeah.
And that was
they want to get right up to the line,
but it made
not,
sense.
I get it, okay.
I guess. So there's a whole new industry of interest.
It seems like that with
so
all
then
of
they
that...
can say they're not...
gay
or bi. Well, they're admitting they're bi-curious or whatever. But men that normally wouldn't. But it's like, so they're looking at your face and they're looking at a guy, so they're getting that guy.
The guy vibe. Right.
The guy vibe that's turning them on, that they're curious and a little bit, want to be a little bit adventurous about, but they don't want to go.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap my brain around for sure.
I'm glad we can service that area of the community apparently now.
Well, but it would take two to do that because you'd have to have a
trans guy
right, a guy like you who is interested in a guy,
right?
Which
I don't know. There was I watched a documentary. It was a lesbian couple, and then one of them transitioned to male, and they broke up. She said, "I don't want to be with a guy. I want to be with a woman."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I'm with a guy. Even though he hadn't had bottom surgery, she's like, I look at him and he's a guy and he talks like a guy. And when I started going back to when I started the hormones, and I started to lose my hair, and I
did that change your libido or anything, like the hormones?
Yes. That was something that Chaz talked about in the documentary. He's like, oh my God, to understand now why guys are horn dogs, basically, and why the women are worried about the guys, about the FT or about the male to females in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That are intact, because holy Lord.
Right. I had this conversation with a friend of mine. We were out for drinks. It's
totally biological. You can't do anything about it.
Right. Well, this girl, we had a bunch of drinks, a bunch of people, and she's like, well, what are you talking about? Girls get horny. And I'm like, yeah, that's adorable. Yeah, that's not the same. You get a warm, fuzzy feeling. You'd like, to have sex. Maybe you'd like to have sex aggressively, whatever like that.
It's absolute drive.
You don't have what's going on in here. And there's all kinds of times in a guy's head that I actually say to myself, man.
It's primal.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But
it's absolute chemical, primal, relentless, and it's very strange. It's when I first started experiencing it, and it's like you're had another brain switching machine out of a sci-fi movie.
Right,
it's like
no, it's different.
Or I started they said you're going to start to eat. You're going to be woofing your food down, and what are you talking about? And then I would find they're like it'll fade as your levels bounce off, but you're going to have this And it's not that it makes you put on
caveman.
weight.
Yeah, right.
I do believe in that. I do believe in that in the little center core of the brain, that stuff is still there in the goo.
I love to
and
cook.
It is chemical, but yeah, I was going to say things I didn't count on. Morning wood.
Okay.
Didn't know that was going to happen.
Right. Sure.
That it's not.
So your clitoris is hard in the morning,
It's
right?
not much, but it's the same
Sure.
hormone surge
Sure.
that
Yeah.
guys get.
Right.
Didn't know that. Didn't read, and it was in there. It was in one of those guides, and I skipped it. I looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get the beard and stuff and everything. I was not prepared for back hair. I was not prepared for neck hair.
Sure.
I was not prepared for butt crack hair. As you can tell, I'm an open book.
Right.
Although in the documentary, Chaz Bono, he was showing his old girlfriend his butt crack hair, and she's like, "Oh my God." She's like, "It's gonna be peach fuzz," and he's like, "No, it's hair."
Right. Sure.
And my whole life, the
Italian
jokes
guy too,
about men with the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's
And
genetics.
I knew I'm going to the bathroom and I'm wiping. I'm like, what is this? What is stuck on me? Do I put toilet paper stuck on me? And I'm like, no, it's hair. It's hair.
Hair. Right.
And I go, oh, I finding a barber. I went
See,
to the barber.
Now my brain says I feel bad for you because guys are disgusting. Like we're just pigs.
The smells.
And
and it's like going through puberty. Your body smells change. I was gonna say usually your acne got supposed to get worse. Mine got better actually. So I don't know what that was.
I never had much acne going on anyway.
That kind of stuff. When I went to find a barber, and the thing is, men who've been going to the barber their whole lives, I take a number 1 blade on the side and a 3 on the top and the da-da-da. I didn't know how to shave. I'm looking up YouTube videos on how to shave. And I wanted a barber that was going to kind of be my guide through that. And so I went to the local barber, and I just, I don't always out myself, but I said, hey, I'm trans. I just transitioned. I need a barber. I need to learn the whole thing. And they said, fuck you, get out. We don't want you here.
Shut up.
The local barber.
Wow.
The barber pulling everything. They're like, no, we won't. No, we don't want you here. So then I went to another barber and called on the phone and told him the same thing. And he's like, oh, I'd be honored. Oh, cool. I would love to.
Yeah,
really.
Right.
And I went in and
just found an asshole the first time.
He was this my barber that I go to, and I have to say I love getting my hair. He's got the old-timey barber chairs, but and the paper and the cloth and the
straight razor
and the
right.
hot foam and the whole thing and the clippers, the whole experience.
The barbershop's awesome.
The whole classic barber experience.
Yeah.
But he's like, okay, we're gonna try this clipper. How do you want it? And I was showing him pictures and stuff, and he taught me how to shave, and he taught me how to do the trim.
Yep.
Buy this product, don't buy that product, da-da-da. So nice. Such a nice guy. And I just told him, I'm like, thanks. I told him about the other experience, the bad experience. And he's like, oh, I'm thrilled.
I sure get my hair
cut.
cut.
I think it's so, good on you. And I think it's cool. And
yeah.
And
I don't know. That's the right. I mean, so I told you about that before we got the podcast going. That after I got injured, there were some people that were different. You know what I mean? Like looked at me differently, and I just equated it to good. Now I already know you're an asshole, so we're cool, and I don't have to deal with you. So that's fine. Sounds like the same situation. So that one jagoff barber, you didn't waste 10 years giving the guy money, and now it's over.
Or I have a neighbor that he's not comfortable with the situation. We don't get along anyway. We used to be friends, now we're not. But
sure.
There's a new neighbor who I get along really well with, and it was like a hot summer night or something. And the new neighbor, he's always out without a shirt on. He always has like mowing the lawn and stuff.
Sure.
And I was like, "Ooh, it's a hot night. I think I'll take my shirt off too." And the other neighbor, no, you can't do that. I can't handle that. And I go, well, you know what? It's really not yours to say. I'm street legal with this thing
must
here.
have a lot going
and
on.
the other neighbor's like, let's do it, Jensen. Take your shirt off right now. Take your shirt. Let's all take our shirts off. And he pulled his shirt off, and he was like, do it, Jensen. Take your shirt off. And the other guy was
upset,
walked away.
I don't get it.
And I wasn't comfortable enough at the time
to take it off.
I have been for the last 2 weeks. I took took up water aerobics.
Yeah, that's what the
So it's
poster
me
said.
and all
right.
the middle-aged and elderly ladies,
Right.
and they've totally accepted me as male, and I'm kind of become this little mascot of the.
Now, do they know?
No, they don't
No,
know.
right.
And some of them, most of them, I think wouldn't have a problem. There's a couple ladies. There's one lady who's one of the instructors, and I mean, God bless her. She plays Christian music for the whole water aerobics class and talks about we need to be healthy because that's what God and Jesus wants for us. And I told them, because the manager asked me, how's it going? And I'm like, I'm loving it, except I don't come here to go to church. I come here for water aerobics.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, yeah, I know. And it's kind of like, it's the lady, and it's the kind of rinky-dink place, and they, whatever. And I said, I'm not complaining. If she knew about me, she wouldn't.
Right, got to be accepting
Tolerance.
of. Right.
If I want tolerance of
Right.
me in any capacity,
Sure.
I have to be tolerant. But
Yep.
and I've gotten some looks, and I was in the, I went in the sauna in my bathing suit to heat up, and there was a guy in there naked and taking a sauna.
Yeah.
And he was asking me about my scars, and he said, you had surgery. He was from Serbia. You have surgery on your chest? And I said, yes, I did. But I didn't elaborate, so he just went, oh, okay. So I changed into my suit in the stall, in the men's stall, and I haven't had any.
Yeah.
I think.
And I guess there's a certain amount of, I don't know, there's probably some precautions you got to take to be a little bit safe, especially
I
somebody.
can't shower there. I can't.
Right, straight. Somebody from Serbia or something like that
Well, no,
might
not. It's not where they're from, honestly. I'd be more leery of the local. I'm sure if I think the women in the class would accept me, but all their husbands work out there, and all their husbands use the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the owner when I signed up, because I said I didn't have to. It's not legal or whatever. I could have just used the facility, not said anything. But I told him, I said, out of respect for you, in case something happened or somebody saw something or whatever. And he said, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And he said, you're legal. You're legally male. Absolutely, you've every right to use whatever locker room you're comfortable
Right.
with. And I told him I'm going to change in the stall. I'm not going to shower here. I don't want to make a big. I get to use it, and you have to.
So let's talk about that. The legal part. You legally, how does that work? So
I started the hormones.
Change your name.
Yeah. After the surgery, I got a letter from the surgeon saying that I had irreversible surgery that changed my gender identity. And that's what the state of Illinois at least needs. And then I started on hormones. And then I started the whole, you go to it's pretty boring actually. You go to the courthouse, you fill out a form, pay your fee, it was like a couple $100 or something, you pay your fee to have your name and gender changed. Then you have to start making a list, and you're like, oh man, my Petco card, like you can't believe the
all the
shit
things
in the
Sure.
world that's out there that your name is on.
Mm-hmm.
That you're gonna have to
Does your
change.
social security number stay the same?
No, the number's the same, but the name and gender
Changes in it, okay.
changes in it.
Now, is that surgery you had really irreversible? You could not, if tomorrow you woke up and said, damn it, I'm going to be a woman again, and that's it.
Put
You could
implants
not.
in?
Yeah, put implants in and just go like plastic surgery back.
I don't.
Because I'm just wondering how the state determines.
I honestly don't know technically.
Right, how the state determines that it's irreversible.
I don't know.
Is it just a doctor's
I
note?
never even asked.
Oh, okay.
It's just this is the letter. It's like an official letter.
So
That's what it states.
Okay, now the official letter. So you go to your doctor and you say, "I need this official letter."
The
So
surgeon provides it when you have the surgery, or when you start hormones. Every state has a different set of criteria.
Right. Now the hormones,
Some-
that's irreversible, right? You can't.
Well, yeah. Well, if I stop tomorrow, you take them forever.
Yeah.
If I stop tomorrow, I would just stay where I'm at.
Got it.
It would never get any more, but it would never get any less.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? My voice wouldn't go back to the way it was. The beard would still keep growing.
Now, any guys ever attempted to triple or quadruple up on the?
Oh, idiots do that all the time. There was a guy in the support group. He's like, he wasn't happy that changes weren't happening fast enough. So he's like, well, I'm just taking double my dose. I'm like, you idiot. You're an idiot. You're going to kill your liver. You're going to...
Yeah, your
you're gonna,
cholesterol
and
jumps
not telling
up.
the doctor. And
Right.
No, you have to... it takes months. It's really like a year before you start to really...
So
change.
you have the same, like they try and get you at the same levels. Say it's 400 or something like that for a dude your age. As a dude, did you notice a large strength increase and stuff like that? Were you much stronger?
You're not automatically stronger, but if you work out,
Yeah.
some other physical changes. Your face, I don't know how to describe it. Your face starts to square off.
Okay.
Which I didn't
I
notice.
heard mandible
I've looked,
too, like
yeah,
jaw.
yeah.
becomes-
Your nose gets flat, mouth gets flat. Like my nose was high. Like, and I have to look at pictures of myself.
Yeah.
A
Since
few years ago, I do look more squared off and more masculine. Your shoulders wide. My shoulders are about 4 inches wider.
yeah, I'll tell you what. If
than
I
used to
saw
be.
you on the street, I would not. I would just straight up.
And I
as a dude.
I did start notice, like, I'd be walking and I'm like, what? It's my shoulders were sticking out.
You'd
a little
see
bit
him.
more.
Yeah. Sure.
If I got pump and iron, you're able to put on muscle,
More mass, sure.
more mass, and
Yeah.
faster
Yeah.
than if you were
Right.
female. But it doesn't just grow. You don't grow muscles. But if you just started working out, you would see.
Right. I had read
results.
somewhere that like
It's not the same, because that's the other thing. My ex was like, just really in her head that testosterone was the same as steroids. You're gonna have roid rage because you do have moods when you first start taking it. Now I don't have, but when your system's getting used to it and you're still doing injections and you're doing up and down and up and down
Yeah.
until you reach that plateau. I did have mood swings. But and you get angry or you get cry or you get whatever, but not I'm gonna
yeah,
I'm
but you're
gonna
not taking
kill you.
steroids like that anyway. I
But
mean, the guys that
people-
are doing that, they're like trying to boost their levels to like
Right, but testosterone is
2000.
not the same thing as steroids. Those are two completely different things that have completely different effects on
Okay.
your body. So
Like
'Cause that's just
for
a
when a
myth
guy
to
takes
dispel.
steroids, he has to take estrogen blockers
Right.
because your body's supposed to produce estrogen to counteract
Right.
the steroids.
Steroids are literally just muscle building,
Right.
fuel. Testosterone affects your whole, the same way if you were taking estrogen, that's totally different from steroids. Hormones are different from.
So you're taking the hormones forever, which is because you don't have testicles.
Stopped having a period, which I loved. That was another
right bonus.
Holy Christ! They have that for that whole. Guys,
Cannot imagine that. No.
it's horrible.
Right.
It's horrible. And I have no desire. I have no desire to have children. I've no, God bless all of the women out there that want to have children. I don't know how they do it. I always think of like alien. I don't know how you grow living being in your body
Yeah, no.
and have it come out of you. It is an unbelievable miracle that happens every day. And I don't think people
So when
think
you
about
when you
it. So
sit
a
back,
woman carrying a baby,
Right.
I can't think of anything more phenomenal than that. But I do not have it in me to
bear children.
and I didn't mourn losing my breasts. I didn't mourn the loss of reproduction. I'd like to have a hysterectomy. My insurance doesn't cover it because if you don't need the parts and you're getting older,
Cancer and all that other stuff is a
I don't
risk.
need them. It's just something that could go bad later. Take them. They can scoop them out whenever I can.
Right.
When we were talking about guys, phalloplasty, like what extent they have to go to.
Yeah.
There are trans guys that will have their vagina sewn shut because they literally don't want to have a hole, an
Yeah.
opening
Right. Okay.
anymore. That's extreme to me.
I-
But everybody's got their surgeons that will do it. So that's.
yeah. Right.
Or we were talking about kids. I'm all for supporting trans kids or gender fluid kids or gender questioning kids, but I am against doing hormone treatment.
Yeah,
someone
for
who hasn't
young.
reached
Right.
puberty.
Right.
They don't have.
I thought that was a
they
rule,
have
but I
the-
heard it's not now. Like that they're like 12 and 13-year-olds.
changing.
Yeah. Right.
It's changing, and I know the parents want to be supportive. I went to Gender Odyssey in Seattle, seeing those 500 kids running around in dresses and whatever it was. It was very powerful, and it was very emotional. And to think that those kids have a chance of growing up in a world where
Now,
they have
is there a
more
difference?
freedom, but I know that kids don't have teenagers. I I worked in education. Teenagers' brains aren't physically formed yet. Teenagers that go to prison for life for murder or whatever. Oh, they knew what they were doing. Well, yeah, no, your brain. I mean, I've taken the classes. I've taken whatever. Your brain isn't finished cooking yet.
No.
So, and you think you know, and you think you're a grown up, and you think you know the difference between right and wrong, whatever, and you kind of do, but it's not until you are older that you realize that you didn't. And you
but
were
is
way
some
off.
of the reason that these parents are doing this early is because they're like your parents, where they see that this is where this is going anyway, and they would like to head it off before the child develops breasts,
right?
Or develops
or
a big chin, and
well, I think they're trying to head off the emotional pain. I think they're trying to, as any parent does, parents that bend over backwards because they don't want to see every parent's instinct is for their kid not to suffer and be in pain and be sad or crying or hurt or whatever it is, and they rush in like they're putting a fire out or whatever. So I think some of the parents are rushing in to put the fire out, and it's going to come to be later how successful they were or not, or how many of these kids 10 or 20 years from now are going to be like, yeah, I thought I felt that way and I really didn't. And
right,
now
that's
I'm
my
stuck,
concern, right.
Or
right.
now I have to switch back or whatever. I don't know what to do. Or
well, the hormones might make you feel a totally different way too. If someone started you as a boy on estrogen, you might start to adopt those feelings just because you are being that way. But if you saw that, I'm not sure what his gender identity was or whatever, or I should say her, but like there was a convenience store story that was just out, and there was like every knucklehead in the world was like posting the ma'am memes constantly. There was some transgender person or cross. I'm not sure I didn't look into it at all. It's really not my like I said, I'm live and let live. So do whatever you want to do. It doesn't affect me. Then I don't understand why I would care. But there was someone that was male and either transitioned, and in a convenience store, the clerk there said, "Sir," and he goes, "It's ma'am."
Oh yeah, and just freaked out. It was at like a GameStop or something. It was
right.
Yeah, I watched that.
But if you saw the person, his physical attributes are very manly looking.
I get called ma'am on the phone because my voice isn't terribly deep.
Right.
I get called. I'm like, people are doing their best. If it's all over the road right now, people aren't trying to be disrespectful, and they're trying to get used to it. Friends and family, my ex will go back and forth between.
Yeah, for this podcast, I had to make sure that I was thinking it through. Right.
And it's like, give society a break. It's all new, At least you can accidentally, call. People need to just chill out or go. Excuse me, or I'm sorry. Excuse me. I would prefer you call me such and such.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be people that snap, regardless.
Yeah.
Or like the parents, like parents, pushing their kids into pee-wee baseball, whether they like it or not.
Right.
There's going to be kids that are going to be pushed into gender transition because the parents are hell bent on. Right. You can't stop any of that in anything where parents are pushing the kids. Unfortunately, It's just going to be another thing in the world where some parents are going to go, push them.
Yeah.
And they think they're doing the right thing, or they think they're helping, or whatever. But like when I talked to the kids in the high school, and there were 2 or 3 that wanted to transition, and they're like, my parents say I have to wait till I'm 18 or whatever, till they're adult. And just to me, if I could have avoided puberty, if I could have at 14 or 15 taken hormones, I would have done it. And if I could get in the time machine and go back and do it over again and go through puberty and come out a guy.
So that's the only advantage I see at heading it off then.
But at the same time, 18 isn't that far from 15, and you've got a long life to live and a couple more years. isn't, and I get you're excited, whatever. Change your clothes, change your name, change your hair. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do.
Sure.
The hormones will wait.
Yeah, live as that other gender as much as you can.
Make sure you're absolutely certain.
Right.
And that's what also, when I talked with the gender identity therapist, the rules are getting loose. It used to be, you had to live legally as the other gender for 5 years before you could have surgery or whatever, 7 years or whatever.
Yeah, I heard that before, right.
Before they would do any kind of, and now it's just kind of a...
Just go for it.
Go
right.
for even buy, or the idiots that are buying hormones online and just doing it themselves.
Right,
and,
right.
Well,
I think there's a thing on Twitter where you can get banned from Twitter for dead naming. So, like, if they were to call you by your feminine name, or, like, I equate it to the same as Cassius Clay being Muhammad Ali. And, if a person wants to change their name to whether it be gender change or religious then you should call them by the name that they are now, for sure. But I'll be honest, the social justice warriors drive me nuts. They absolutely drive me nuts.
It's over the top.
Yeah, it's like, hey man, listen, this person that is going through the situation, we're defined by our obstacles in life, okay? I mean, when I was injured, I didn't want to be. This was not something I chose. But at this point in my life, I'm 16 years out from being injured. I look at it completely different now. I look at it like, look what I overcame. Yeah. If I didn't overcome that, I wouldn't be who I am, sort of a thing. So you obviously have lots of things that you had to overcome. So in my humble opinion, I've only talked to you for a couple hours. Relish it, man. Like, I'm telling you, that's a big deal. To overcome everything you overcame, that's a story when at the end of your life, and someone can tell that story, you have... Muhammad Ali's not Muhammad Ali without Joe Frazier.
Right.
If you don't have the competition, if you don't have the obstacles, then you're not who you are. So you had said something earlier about, like, dealing with some depression, thinking about suicide and stuff like that. Man, hold it out. Right. Because when you're 75 and you're going to be like, I got through all that.
And when you say the end, when you talk about the end, when I first started this, and I'm like, God, I'm 40-something years old, and like, just why would I put myself through this? And
it's something.
The money and the time and all this, and I'm like, just whatever, just don't rock the boat and just live with what you have. You're not that miserable, or what. I would just tell myself that, and then I'd be like, no, I mean, and again, inspired by Chaz, I'm like, better late than never. If he can do it at 40, whatever, I can do it in my 40s. Mm-hmm. And, it's for me, it's not for anybody else. And when I would tell people, I don't care if I live one day after I had that piece of paper in my hand that said mail from the court. If I got hit by a bus on the way out of the courthouse, they would have checked mail on the box on my death certificate, and I would go on the ground happy. Right. And that's it doesn't have that's mission accomplished.
Right. It's terrific. I mean,
and that was it.
Right. Like I said, you should look at it like the things you've accomplished, and then getting to the point where you're at now, that's an accomplishment. Let's talk about the book.
So the book came about because, like I said, when I was transitioning, for the longest time I was anti-Jen. Mm-hmm. My sister surprised me once. She had a birthday party for me, and the surprise was 13 kids under the age of 10 who knew me as Auntie Jen, that I babysat or nannied or whatever, and they were all trying to get on my lap at the same time to take a picture. Right. All my wee ones that I adore. And when I was transitioning, all the parents are like, how are we going to explain this to the kids? And I'm like, well, there's got to be a pamphlet at the health center or something online. And the more I looked, the more I couldn't find anything. Or, like I said, Jazz. I'm so sick of Jazz, but I guess, God bless her, Jazz has her book, and there's like, Billy wears a dress. Or there's like kids' books that are trans-affirmative, but everybody wanted to know what happens, like what's going to happen to Auntie, the physical stuff. Yeah, and sure. I've always believed that kids are bullshit detectors. You should be as honest with them as possible. When you lie to them, they usually know, or when you're, even toddlers, they know when you're selling them.
And they ask why,
They don't need TMI. They don't need all the information, but the more honest you are with them, the sooner and the better it turns out. And information is power, knowledge is power. And like we said, I think fear stems from, and misunderstanding comes from ignorance, from lack of information.
Right.
In adults and children, and everybody. So I couldn't find anything, and so I said, well, I just think then I just have to write it. So I started writing it, and then a friend of mine who's an artist, I said, will you illustrate it? And he said, no, because it'll ruin our friendship, which it probably would have.
Right.
And he's like, but a buddy of mine would be great. So I hooked up with him, Quinlan, and just sat down and started writing and wrote about literally, it's a boy. And like we said, again, I am respectful of every single gender marker that's out there, but this is specifically about male to female and female to male.
Right.
If I was gender non-whatever
Yeah,
conforming, I'd be writing that book. This is,
Sure.
the book about female to male and male to female.
Right.
Boys that want to be girls and girls that want to be boys. Which is we're a pretty big population of the, LGBTQ community. So I wrote my story. You guys, whoever you are, write your story. So, and just, boys that like girl things and girls that like boy things. And you go to the doctor and you, explaining what, hormones are. They're the chemicals. They're the things in your body that make you a boy or make you a girl. And
Sure.
that, I think kids can, if you explain it right,
Yeah.
kids can understand, basic concepts, and the kids, what your body's like, and there'll be changes and how your body changes, and maybe you'll just change your hair. That everybody's different. You'll make the changes you want to make. Or maybe you'll decide to go and change your body more, and kids understand. You go to the hospital, and you go to...
Sounds like it helps.
You're asleep,
Right.
and then they make changes to your body, and you wake up, and your body's different, da-da-da, and you do what you need to do. But just literally explaining the nuts and bolts of the physical and emotional, and, the person that you know and love is the same person on the inside, even if their outside is different, They're still, it's what's in their heart, not the parts of their body. That's
Right.
what's important.
Right.
And I was doing good for a while. I was promoting it, and I've been naughty. I haven't been promoting it, so I need to get back on track with that. And thank you to all the Kickstarter people. I was overwhelmed. I was blown away. Frankfurt folks that I haven't seen in 30 years. Friends and family.
Who got it off the ground?
Who all, if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have happened. But I need to get back on it. I've been
For you, was
complacent for a
it
while.
therapeutic to write it?
Yeah, and amazing to see the kids. When you said kids asking questions, I dedicated it to Alice, who is the daughter of a friend of mine, who is the question: where do oranges come from? How do the clouds work?
Right.
Why?
Sure.
Why? God bless her. And Alice can get very, overwhelming, but you have to always go, look, but she's curious, and she's very highly intelligent.
Yeah, right.
Because she's been like this from day one. And it's always, why? And then sometimes you're like,
I would, with my situation with the injury, I would much rather have people ask me questions and I can answer them than assume something.
So Alice had very good questions that needed very good answers. And the breaking point for me that started the book was when my mom passed away. We were at the memorial service, and I was wearing a suit. And Alice, who knew me, came up to me and she said, "Are you a boy or a girl?"
Right.
In front of a crowd of people. But again, kids, God bless them, no filter.
Nope.
And I looked at her and I thought for a second, because I wanted to answer that as honestly as I could. And I said, "Well, Alice," I said, "I'm a girl who's wearing boys' clothes today." And she went, "Okay," and just traipsed off and went on with her.
Mm-hmm.
That was accurate.
Right.
It wasn't everything.
No.
But it was all she
enough
needed
for
for
Alice.
that day.
Right.
But I wasn't gonna, and her mom was mortified, like, "Don't ask that," and it's in the middle of this solemn, thing. And it was like, no, kids ask questions. And I always remembered, I don't know who else might remember the books from the 70s, What's Happening to Me? Mm-hmm. And where did I come from? They were cartoon books that were in the 70s that covered puberty and babies, sex and where babies came from. And it was the mom and dad would sit you down next to the bed. They're still in print, and they're like award-winning, these 2 books that had apparently until then nothing had ever been. And it's like, this is a
believe
penis.
that, right.
This is the sperm comes out of it, whatever. Here's your bodies, and everybody's bodies are different. And drawings of, naked boys and girls, and they're all their bodies, some of them has big boobs and little boobs and saggy boobs and whatever. And they were, at the time, they were revolutionary, and they're still in print. And your parents would have, who were too afraid to have the talk with you on that stuff alone, or needed a resource, would either go here and say, read it, or sit you down and read it to you and have the awkward read together. But I'm like, we need that for transition.
Right.
Just an honest. We also, I wish, not just for trans, but in general, we need Mr. Rogers. I'm like, maybe I could be the trans Mr. Rogers, He was so good at explaining everything.
Sure, to kids.
Explaining death, explaining, adoption and
always
divorce.
Creeped me out, though. I don't know why. Mr. Rogers always creeped me out.
Oh no, he was creepy, but he could, his books and stuff, and he could,
No, he was
going
very
to the
good.
hospital. Whatever.
I think this is
covered
terrific.
hard topics, but in a very straightforward, honest, simple way
Right.
that kids could understand, but that, that the parents, but also
The more that's out there, I think the better it is for young people to be, exposed to it, so that there's less. I think my concern always is that kid that is 18 to 30 years old and contemplates suicide and stuff like that, versus just dealing with, this is who I am, so this is what I got to do.
Well, LGBT teens have the highest suicide. Over 80% of teen suicides in America are LGBT teens. Well, like I said, like when I was, in high school and stuff, and some of us had identified each other and talked and knew each other, and I probably was like junior and senior year, I was out to my closest friends and stuff, but that was like a death sentence. If that got out, thank God, that's changed.
I was oblivious to all that. I'm sure the community of people was a lot bigger than anyone.
We were so scared. We were just so scared of anybody finding out.
Right.
Because it seemed, because there was this huge social
Yeah.
negativity and this huge, and there's other people from Lincoln Way that are on Facebook. I keep saying I'm going to do a LGBT Lincoln Way Facebook page, but I've only got 2 or 3 other people that I know that are out, and I'm like, also it's like 10% at the lowest. I'm like, there's got to be way more people from Lincoln Way that are members of the community that aren't. But again, that's their business. That's their business. But that was one thing on Facebook. It was like, hey, you, me, too. I thought you were,
So you've lived through this whole life in these situations. It seems to me that it's drastically better today than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah.
In fact, when they brought the Will and Grace back, one of the first episodes, Will's dating a much younger guy, and he's talking about like the gay struggle or whatever, and the guy's like, "What gay struggle?" And Will's really upset because the guy really hasn't experienced discrimination or whatever, and he's like, "We broke the trail for you," and it's like, again, it's like explaining what life was like without a cell phone or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Before Jackie Robinson,
right. He can't, and I'm a teen from the 80s. I can't even say, I'm saying nothing compared to the struggle from the generation.
50s, 60s, sure.
My ex, who was in the 70s, who was marching and picketing, and, that was the era of Stonewall, and,
Right. No, I'm glad to hear that it's getting better, and I don't imagine it's going to get worse, so hopefully it gets...
it's not really good right now.
No, right. The current administration...
Current administration is not... I sent a copy to Donald, because I thought maybe he wouldn't be so afraid of us and let us serve in the army and stuff. We're not even good enough to take a bullet? Come on, even just as... Although apparently I saw in the news that the trans ban is not being upheld, so...
I think that the trans ban for that administration is more about, they feel that people that are trans join the military so they can get it paid for.
No.
Right. I think that's the consensus, though.
No, I think it has to do with the Christian, and I'm not going to be
Donnie's not a Christian.
I'm anti-Christian because actually I wanted to be a minister. When I was in high school, I was in my high school youth group at my church.
Yeah.
And I was going to go directly into the seminary, but I was gay, and my church knew I was gay.
Right.
I was a member of the Methodist Church, and at that time, there was a big hoo-ha in the Methodist Church, and they had a big vote about whether gays were going to be allowed, and the answer was no.
So now you're a person of faith?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
Well,
No,
I have a hard time sometimes.
Right, I don't...
There was a TV show where a guy talked about being a lapsed Catholic, and he said, you don't believe in God, and he said, I have a hard time catching him in. And I think of that sometimes, but I don't know.
More power to you if you are. That's
well,
great.
but the thing is, there's I don't know. I don't want to say there's like good Christians and bad. There's good people and bad people regardless of anything.
Absolutely.
But as far as the president is concerned, certain very hardcore right wing evangelicals, the ones that think he's here to bring that him being here is the sign of the second coming and getting Israel back and all the stuff when they were praying over.
I think he's just playing to his base.
So I think he's playing to that.
Yeah.
I think the trans ban and other anti-LGBT. When he was holding up the rainbow flag upside down, by the way, which shows you.
I think he just wants everybody's vote. I mean, and it just being a politician or whatever he was doing.
But a lot of
I'm no fan of Donald Trump.
But he plays to a certain segment that is very, very rabidly anti-LGBT, and
I think that's how he gets their vote.
Baking the cake and but a lot of rights that we gain are being slowly go back, losing to the Supreme Court about the cake. It's religious freedom.
Right. The Indiana.
Okay,
Baker.
fine. Then I'm going to start my own religion and start denying somebody something. And they're going to say, you can't do that, you're discriminating, or whatever.
Oh, I agree with you 100% that was the wrong ruling as far as that goes. Because you can't, the next step would be...
There's nothing in the Bible that says to discriminate against gays.
Well, gay marriage
Jimmy
is
Carter
not...
was talking
gay
about,
marriage
there's
is not
nothing
mentioned
in the Bible.
Bible.
Jesus never said anything about, but... Yeah, that's frustrating. But I sent him a copy. But it's bad. It's bad for us right now. My partner and I, we fly pride flag, and we've had incidents, and we've had threats,
right?
And we, sitting out on the front porch on Halloween, and we have trick-or-treaters that walk right by our house, and parents that call their kids back
Sure.
off our. They're halfway up our stairs, and they call them back because of that flag that we're flying. Should I take my flag down? I don't know, but
I wouldn't.
After the shooting in the nightclub in Florida, like you start to feel, I understand what other minorities feel like when they feel literally physically unsafe. You start to feel like you're walking around with a target on your back, and when people are saying we need to have another Holocaust. There's that one pastor who said we need to be rounded. We need another Holocaust, and gays need to be rounded up and put in concentration camps. An American megachurch minister, said that, and nobody seems to give a shit.
Right. Well, all that hate, all that does
because they're not gay, or that's not my problem because I'm not gay.
That just breeds more hate. Is all it does. It's never going to. You're not going to conform because they don't like you.
I'm still in contact with Joe Miller, Lincoln Way history teacher and personal demigod that everybody loved. And I just remember when we were taking the
He's
classes.
on Facebook. I'm connected.
He's on Facebook talking about World War II and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just textbook, whipping up the hate against, somebody else. And I just can't believe it's really happening in our country. But and it's like I've got a black friend who, got pulled over in Frankfurt, and all he was doing was getting gas, and the cop comes up and says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" "I'm getting gas. Let me see your ID." It's like, that shit really does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
And then, I, have issues. I've had issues with neighbors. We've had police involved and stuff like that. And this shit really happens.
I don't.
And then I've
doubt
got neighbors that stick up for us, and I've got neighbors that don't. And I've got neighbors that are saying, oh, we're just going to remain neutral. And one neighbor, I said, if I was black and this guy was treating me this way, would you still be glad handing him at the end of the driveway and, hey, how's the garden this year, and da-da-da? Because that hurts. That hurts me. Now, I don't expect you to be someone you're not.
Right.
But it does hurt,
I
it's
would
like
think
you're friend I'm black and you're friends with the local Klansman, but my friendship with you is as a neighbor is separate.
So do you
and
feel...
it's not supposed to bother me.
Do you feel that with the trans situation where you're transitioned, does that make, if you were walking with your ex-partner, does that make that relationship more socially acceptable because you look more like a man and that looks like a woman and that looks like just a straight couple to somebody?
Right. Well, I can say that I get handed the check now every time we go to a restaurant.
Well, that's good.
So, guys, she pays every time because I'm not working right now.
Right.
And that's become a laugh every time we go to a restaurant. The check comes right to me because I'm the man.
But I would assume
I know what
that
you mean.
people would just assume that that's a straight couple.
Yeah, but that's what everybody assumes. I mean, my best friend, what not since I was 15 from Lincoln Way. What is this? 33 years later now, and we were, if we weren't with our group of friends, we were together all the time. And I used to tell him, God, I feel so bad when we're in a restaurant together because everybody's probably assuming that I'm your girlfriend and you could do much better. I was fat and ugly, and I'm like, and he'd be like, stop talking like that. First of all, nobody's assuming that. I'm like, well, that's what I'm thinking when I'm looking at people sitting together. But and then it's like, well, but are you thinking about that when it's two guys or two girls? And it's like, well, no.
I'm oblivious to it all. I don't think about anything when I'm out. Like, I can go out with people, and I don't know if I don't have any gaydar or what's up with that, but I don't pay any attention to it.
You either have gaydar or you don't.
Yeah, I don't pay any attention to any of that stuff at all. Yeah. I'm sometimes, when I see a guy that's feminine, I assume he's homosexual, but I've been surprised by guys that are super feminine that are not homosexual. They're like,
right.
And I'm like, all right, so that I messed up, man.
Yeah.
And then I have definitely been in a situation where I was golfing one time, and there was two women that were golfing, and my buddy knew the two women. We started talking to them, started drinking and stuff like that, and then I found out 3 hours later that they were a couple. I'm like, okay, how'd that get past me? I had no idea.
There's no system.
I don't think about any of that though. That's not
There's walking, talking stereotypes of everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Which actually, that even ticks me off because I'm like, oh, whatever, the Pride Parade and everything. And I'm like, it just reinforces every
I'm getting a booth this year at the Pride Festival in Mokina.
Well, we don't, I went to the Pride Parade a couple times when I was a teenager with the girl I was dating at the time who really wanted to go. And
now that's some over the top.
And it's way over the top. And you go now, and I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to be happy that the LGBT community is so normalized or accepted. Because now you go and it's like all the floats are sponsored by Jewel, and there's no assless chaps anymore. It's like it's not this fringe event anymore. It's like all corporate.
I would be a little bit if I was
all
in
these
that,
housewives and stuff.
I would
at
not
the Pride
be
Parade.
happy with that.
And I'm like, I guess I should be happy that it's like going to the Bud Billiken Parade or something now, but
my
then
problem
it's sad
with that
it's
is
lost its edge.
If someone dislikes that and then they see the Pride Parade, they don't accept it more. They dislike it even more. It's almost like we're trying to jam the angel wings and the buttless chaps and everything down your throat.
Right.
And it's like, dude, can't you just why don't you just show homosexual people as being normal people?
That's like when I get upset. I'm not a big fan of rap and hip hop, and I'm like, do you have to wear the this and the that and the talk like this and whatever? And then I'm like, whether I like it or not, that's part of that culture. Mm-hmm. And I can't, whether it's a lip ring or every culture on earth, whether it's a social culture or, culture of a nation or whatever it is that's got their clothes and their music and their food or whatever, I have to respect, all of them. And assless chaps are part of our culture. The same way that the big gold chain is the part of hip-hop culture, whatever it is.
Right.
And it sounds stupid, but it's a part of it. It's not all of it, but it's part of it. And so we're going to celebrate that the same way.
Oh yeah, and I think you should celebrate it for sure.
There's a little bit of over the top in everybody. It's the white people culture with Miracle Whip and white bread or whatever. I mean, there's a joke stereotype in every every culture. But I think if we're respectful, if we go, I mean, my family have always been a family of foodies. And I love watching travel food shows where, some, Andrew Zimmer's in, sub-Saharan African, but they're eating the grubs or whatever it is, but it's like, man, you're sharing your thing and I'm sharing my thing, and it all, we all come together, and there's something, you can take people from all over the world. I recently got hooked on watching Conan O'Brien.
Okay.
Who I don't have cable. And first he toured the United States, and then he did a whole international thing. He went to Israel and Germany and Ireland and Haiti. He went to Haiti after the president called it a shithole just to prove it's not a shithole. Mm-hmm. And he practically got mobbed when they saw it was an American because they were so angry. And he's like, no, I'm here to show that this is a beautiful place.
Sure.
With beautiful, amazing people and all Americans, And just, he was in Israel, and he had Palestinian and Israel people laughing and hanging out together and singing and dancing. And it's like, the boots on the ground, the people in the world from all, whatever, have more to come together with than to come apart. And, and the guy on my block who harasses me, I know if we had an opportunity, there's something that we have
absolutely
in common,
sure,
that we can connect on.
Right. Good. That's a good
if
attitude.
If we had the opportunity, if we both made the choice to have the opportunity to do that, it could be food, it could be some cultural, whatever. You have to be free to to open up to that.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't know. Everybody's just so scared right now and angry and full of hate or whatever. I just hope it's temporary. I think it's temporary.
I think it's temporary.
And I think, the world, it's like, globalization or whatever, you can't stop it. It can't be stopped. The people that want to stop it, and the people that want to divide and and hold back, and now we're going to be protectionist, and America go back to, it didn't work in World War I. It's not going to work now. And even if we wanted to, it's not physically possible. The world only moves forward. Technology only moves forward. Culture only moves forward. The world shrinking, travel, this, whatever. Races mixing, intermarriage, interfaith, whatever. I hate to say it like this, but we're all moving to the Star Trek or whatever, where everybody on the planet's wearing the same leotard.
Sure.
Although apparently that's going to be pajama pants, and I'm not into that. I don't know. I think that's the first step. I think that's going to be in the history books as the first step we took towards the single unitard, because in Star Trek, every planet wears the one outfit.
Right.
Yeah, so pajama pants is the start of that.
So,
but we're moving to, you can't stop it. It's just happening.
Right.
And this to me is the last gasp of this white male conservative, witch melting.
Right. I think some of that is the problem.
And it's not a fear. It's not a fear. But the fear of being overwhelmed.
I don't like to hit on that too much, just because I don't want to. It is going away. I mean, the average Fox News watcher, 69 years old, that they're losing. It's going away, but I think that only makes them more upset about that whole situation, because it's inevitable.
See, I wouldn't say losing. I don't like the term losing. Changing. But change is just as scary.
Dying off. I mean, they're going to be...
No, but there's new little young ones being born all the time. The way there's new little young...
Yeah,
everybody's being born all the time. It's just, I want the new little young ones that are being born to all get along better.
I think they do.
To be taught to
I do. I really feel they do.
That it's better to be together than than to be separate, or
I think
I'm
there's
better
way
and
more,
they're
right. There's
not,
way
so-
more of that
Yeah.
than there used to be.
Well,
Now
that's what I
your
hope.
progression, I paid attention to your social media posts, and I gotta say, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they were a little bit more angsty and upset. And I've seen some, like, there was some posts that I saw that I'm like, oh, I really feel for this person going through all this stuff. And just probably in the last 3 or 6 months, I've seen a couple posts where you're like, well, I like myself and stuff like that. So do you feel like you're really progressing in the right?
In fact, I was going to say, when you're talking about the name, using the proper name, the person I live with, if I'm being a pain in the ass or whatever, or they get angry at me, they'll call me Jennifer.
To get to you.
I thought, well, to get me to me as a dig, and then they said, no, you're acting like the old you. Meaning,
Yeah, the person that was upset with
meaning
themselves.
the person who was crabby and mean and nasty and da-da-da. And because I'm because I'm happier now and don't get as upset, and I don't go, well, we all get upset. It's not a miracle. It wasn't a miracle, personality changer, but so much happier and more fulfilled that I'm less, hair trigger or whatever, because I'm a happier, better functioning person. That when I get at my worst, she'll call me Jennifer, and
Right.
but then I know now that that's kind of a verbal cue to go check yourself.
And I think
you
that's
need
an
to bring it
inside, comment. I don't think that somebody that's completely outside, of the relationship could ever pull that one off and not be an asshole.
Right.
Now, as far as the book goes, when you said you're going to get out and promote it a little more, where can someone find the book?
Well, they can get it on Amazon.com.
It's on Amazon? Good.
Kindle.
I'm going to take a picture of the cover and I'll put it up on the thing, and I'll maybe take a picture of the
I
back
did it through
too.
Lulu Publishing. They can get it through Lulu. You can get it as an ebook.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not very well prepared for that. Yeah, it's available in a whole bunch of. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, do that.
And I have copies.
Right.
If people want a copy, send me a message on Facebook, and I'll just send it to you. I've got a stack.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Excellent.
Well, we're a little over 2 hours. I think that we can, unless there's something else that you think that we should cover, then...
No, maybe just if there's any other trans people from Lincoln Way.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get up the courage to go to the next reunion.
Which I don't know when that is or what's up with that.
When I knew they were at their reunion and they were giving out, the person who'd lost the most hair, kind of like gag.
Right.
The person who had lived farthest away or whatever. And one of them was most changed, and they gave it to someone who was trans, who came back as
that's something.
left as a he and came back as a she, and they were took it as a compliment, and the whole place apparently gave them a huge round of applause and stuff, and I know people are just plain curious too. So
yeah,
but I'm dying to see everybody, miss everybody, and loving having the Facebook connection, and thank you to everybody for their support.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
And
All
it's
right.
great to see you.
Well, we'll wrap it up. If there's anything, by all means, somebody contact me and I'll contact Jenson and he'll fill me in. Thanks. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.